Here we go, folks. Hello, Wednesday morning live. So, it's got coffee on both sides. Yeah, there we go. Wanted to pop on here, um, get some videos edited while we're waiting for people to pop in. So I got to download a couple things. Still waiting to get the final go ahead to sign the lease, so we can put this office into existence. So, Rohith, what's up, man? We're back very early. I know I'm going to be busy later on around dinner time here, so it's going to take me some time there. Meeting up with a bunch of buddies, and we're going to dinner. We used to do it as like a yearly thing traditionally, but everybody moved away and kind of got busy with their own lives. And now, since we're all back on 1 week, and we'll actually be going. My one friend's hiring I think Jason Aldean to have a party this weekend, so we'll all be at that too, which should be pretty cool. I don't know if you know who Jason Aldean is, but I didn't know he did private parties, but I was wrong. Sipping on our Quip Prime Protein as well as the coffee, which actually reminds me I need to put another order in actually for the coffee, because we're going to be running out here really soon. But you never want. Coffee can never run out, people. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing, but let's get logged in here. How are you doing, buddy? I know we have, I think you said what, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday you have exams. So did you probably already had your thing, right? Or is Friday the next one? I forget. 7953. All right, cool. Let's go back. Want me to check out new stuff? I just want my coffee. There it is. Let's go like this. Get the 3-pack. And Sunday. You have Sunday exams? No, none on TikTok. Not right now. Maybe later, but I promise you, brother, you're gonna regret this. We're gonna get this live pumping. It's frequency and watch time over here on YouTube. So if you're not, like, I was being way more consistent with the TikTok ones, but watch what happens here. We just remain consistent on this sucker. We're gonna get a whole bunch of people flooding in. Believe me. And I did it earlier this year. We were having 5,200 people in here at a time. So we gonna get there. Promise you that. All right, the 3-pack. You always need the 3-pack. And then the discount code. Save us some money. Look at that. Save 26 bucks. Hell yeah. Boom. 3 to 4 business days. Got the recipe book as well, so that's pretty cool. Nice. Boom. Done and ordered. TikTok's live. And maybe I'll sit on here for a little bit, and depending on activity of things, I just kind of wanted to do this as I was getting some easy work done, let the people file in, and then I do have a list of questions for us to go through. You're missing out on a $40 bonus. I don't like those offers. So look at that, a nice 20 bucks saved. And we got, so I am currently throwing the next video into CapCut right now, just so we can tone up the quality here for a longer form video on the sleep part 1 that we did last week. I actually need to spend a lot of time today going through this weekend's lecture live. I don't know what to call them, lecture lives or our little, I guess, lecture lives. We'll call it that, because these are more Q&As and kind of free roaming things, but it takes a while for this to enhance the quality and things on here. So I'm going to let that run as we kind of go over stuff over here. But yes, kind of as a prelude to things, getting into weight loss, metabolic syndrome, do calories matter or not? I'm going to be going through a ton of research there and talking through fiber and proteins and all those things. So should be pretty fun and very in depth, but it's going to have a ton of details for everybody there. So stay tuned for that. All right, so that should take, it's only at 1%. All right, well, we will wait for that to continue. Ooh, you can get the 3-pack for discount there. Very nice. All right, well, very well there. What else we got here? Got this. Let's get into some of the questions that I have here. So I do get the restless leg questions a bunch. So why do my legs feel restless at night, even when I'm exhausted? And restless legs kind of connect to 3 different things: dopamine, magnesium, and iron utilization. So getting ferritin checked, getting magnesium checked, and even dopamine levels. And those are, dopamine's usually measured through the urine a lot of the times, whether it's a neurotransmitter test or something like a Dutch Complete. It is usually measuring what is excreted out. But yeah, with those 3 things highly connected to the restless leg, I would start with the magnesium there, um, just because it's kind of an easier, more cost-effective gap that you can fill in. If that truly is the issue, you should be able to solve that pretty darn quick and know, okay, this was, what we were dealing with, and not have that anymore. But I used to have them a ton. Mine was due to, whoa, little earthquake there. Mine was due to more the dopamine sense of things and having inflammatory levels pretty high too. So back in the day, my legs were all restless like crazy. Not anymore though. So, well, cheers to that. But yep, another chemistry thing there. I would get some magnesium going, and then if that doesn't solve it, then I would get some labs done and look at those other factors too with iron and honestly the connection to dopamine there, which could very well be the missing link for you, man. Okay. Why do I crave salt all the time? So salt cravings, and it's kind of funny because mainly people are having sugar cravings. That is like the number one thing that you'll see. But there are a few people out there, they're more of the exception, not really the rule, where they're like, I don't crave sugar at all. I crave salt. So if you're one of those people, you consider yourself lucky because most people are addicted to sugar and have um, crazy sugar cravings. But the salt cravings usually point to some adrenal insufficiencies there. So running low on the stress hormonal battle, which most people run into, and you're having a hard time stabilizing some blood pressure, it's definitely key to get enough of the electrolytes in, regardless. Whether you go with a powder form, I think it's just much cheaper and simpler to get a good unrefined sea salt there. But yes, it's very cheap to get electrolytes evaluated through blood, and for freaking 5, 10 bucks, you can get that looked at. If not, then it is connected to more of the stress hormonal things. But salt cravings are not, a weakness. It's more of a deficiency there. Does taking vitamin D supplements strain the kidneys, and how much can you take with no side effects? This is why I think it's very important. I'm going to pull up the live on this computer here too. Very important to get K2 along with your vitamin D, just so that you are directing that calcium. For some people that are just taking a D3, or they're doing like a once a week high dose of D3, I think you can run into some issues with calcium, and that's what's affecting the kidneys. So when you hear vitamin D affecting the kidneys there, it is usually due to a connection with calcium. And I think that's why K2 is so important. Whether it's the K2 rich foods that you're doing, like natto, fermented dairy forms, kefir, even aged Parmesan, really high in K2. I think avocados as well, but um, yeah, the connection there comes from more of an issue with directing the D3. Because if you're not directing that calcium, it's going to kind of go everywhere, which definitely you don't want over long periods of time. It's been even connected with kidney stones and things like that when you don't have K2 going along, which is kind of funny because I'll hear practitioners on platforms being like, you should never take K2. It's like, oh my goodness, people, what are you telling these people? They need K2. K2 is a normal thing that you come into contact with there. So, good question though, and definitely true. Definitely true. Kariber, I don't think I've seen you on here, man. Welcome, welcome. Got a little midday live, which is way earlier than I typically do these things. So, but great question. I think the sun's finally coming out here. It's kind of a gloomy morning here in New Jersey. Where are you guys from, though? You guys from the US? I know YouTube kind of throws me all over the world at times. So, you guys could be from anywhere. Um, okay. Why do I feel hungover after eating junk food, even without alcohol? Yeah, I mean, the seed oils within there, the processed sugar, all the inflammatory stimuli that we're getting from crappy foods like that, even without the alcohol, it's a lot tied into that sugar, and then a lot of it's tied into the seed oils there as well, just affecting the liver a ton, um, by taking in a bunch of inflammatory things. Which, if that is happening, you want to be calming those histamine responses down and lessening the sugar, and not eating the processed foods, creating the issue in the first place. But if it's still taking place, things like gymnema, things like milk thistle can help a ton with just pushing phase two and then combating the sugar response there. Uh, Depending on how far along somebody is with that sugar battle, you may need something like Oregon grape, but obviously checking liver enzymes, doing things like fasting insulin, checking CRP. Thank you for answering my question. Heck yeah, man. That's what we're here doing. Helping out the people here. Um, what else? Mm, I don't think people get enough proteins, which is why I'm always putting that right in my coffee, because it's an easy way to get it in the morning. Like I do 2 cups of coffee in the morning, and each cup I'm putting protein in there so that we're getting a front load of this like crazy, and we're not running into kind of being deficient throughout the day and then getting hungry and having stress hormones catch up to us. And that's why people kind of get real stressed out by lunch and things, because they're just avoiding eating, which I think you should really be doing a larger breakfast and then kind of a mid lunch and dinner in between there, and going heavier on those two meals. And then honestly, skipping dinner could be way better than eating later in the day. Because a lot of people will try and do things like intermittent fasting and things, but I think it's way more worth doing earlier meals because then you'll burn more throughout the day. And now if you're increasing the proteins and timing that eating a little bit better, now we're promoting things like weight loss, which I'm kind of going over some of this because we're going to be going over that in our lecture live this weekend, which I'm probably going to do on Friday, which reminds me I have to type up a bunch of stuff and create the PowerPoints and things for or PowerPoint for us to go through there. But you'll be seeing me posting about that and even clipping it up and giving you guys as much as possible there. So, ooh, 90% done. Good. Good, good, good. But either way, so we covered eating junk food, feeling hungover. Why do I always feel cold in warm rooms, even in the sun, even wearing warm clothes? I mean, first thing comes to mind is metabolism, thyroid hormones, because when you don't have enough thyroid hormones, those are in every single cell in your body, and your energy, your fat burning, overall metabolism, and through that metabolism comes a bunch of heat that's produced. So, when you don't have enough thyroid hormones there, mitochondria are going to slow down. Iron plays into this a ton as well. So, getting full thyroid panels is key. Getting enough iodine is key. Getting enough selenium is key. And the amino acid load coming in too, because those are all cofactors that contribute for people creating enough thyroid hormones in the first place. I like doing something like thyroid glandular because you can have T4 and T3 in there. I talk about that a ton on here, is getting organ meats into the system, which is why I'm always talking about the Equip Foods stuff, because actually their liver glandular just ran out of stock, I think. Let me check. And I think I emailed the company about this too. So let me double check though. Yeah, theirs just ran out. But they do have the colostrum up there still. Okay, wait. Does obesity cause diabetes? If a person on the thinner end eats a bunch of sugar on a daily basis, will he get diabetes from that? And if so, how long does that take? So the first question there, does obesity cause diabetes? Yeah, you could flip it around too and say diabetes causes obesity. So it goes both ways, and both of them are highly, highly connected to sugar. I think sugar is kind of the enemy when it comes to this. And if you're going to do anything, just switch to avoiding as many starches as you can, avoiding as many grains as you can, because they are way harder to break down and do a lot more damage than pretty much anything else. And if you want to get some sugar fixing in there, switch to your stevia, switch to your honey sources, because you can get away with doing a little bit of those, and things like berries too, because they're so high in fiber. But anybody that is at that diabetic level, you're going to need to hit it way harder. And it's going to be very challenging because your sweet receptors are totally desensitized to these things. And now that's why I keep mentioning things like gymnema and Oregon grape, because the levels of berberine in there, and then the sweet reception that gets shut down by taking that gymnema. Even holding the liquid herb in your mouth a little bit longer will even reprogram your brain. So I'll even have people take a piece of chocolate and some gymnema, take that gymnema on and let it wait in the mouth a little bit, take it down, and then eat your chocolate so that you can basically make it taste horrible and start to reprogram the brain to say, okay, maybe I don't like sugar as much. And this takes a little bit of time, but you start to reprogram things there. And stress is another thing that affects people a ton with this whole sugar battle in the first place. So it's a combination of getting stressed down as well as reducing the sugar intake, watching the starches. That is where people get into trouble, and the processed sugars too. I mean, if people are going to Dunkin' Donuts, getting this huge coffee where like half of it is just sugar in the cup with a bunch of syrups that are not even real. And that when I say processed sugar and things, I'm talking about the corn syrups and all those things that are just going to be detrimental. Detrimental. So it can go both ways. And then that was a long answer for the first question. The second part of that, for the thinner person eating a bunch of sugar, how long will it take? You're going to have issues with insulin way before you have issues with hemoglobin A1C and getting up to that pre-diabetic range, and then eventually into the diabetic range where A1C is up at, in the sixes, 6.2, 6.3. Then we're really into some trouble. But as soon as I see A1C getting above 5.3, I'm already starting to let people know, like, hey, we got to reel things back in terms of what you're doing there for sugar, because over time here, we're going to be running into some bad things in the future if we don't get ahead on this. How long will that take? Probably a couple months. I'd say 2, 3 months before that skinnier, thinner type starts seeing the downside effects. And for somebody that's skinnier, you're probably going to have swings in blood sugar first, and that's kind of going to be your first sign. Getting really hangry, so real moody when you wait to eat. That's really common. Getting dizzy when you're standing up a little bit too quick, or having some brain fog go on, and just having real swings in energy from super low to super high because you can't regulate that sugar, and it's starting to you're now getting toward the insulin resistant realm to where it cannot keep that blood sugar in balance nice and tightly, because you should only have a teaspoon of sugar in your whole bloodstream at once. So people don't realize that we're the amount of carbs that make up our body is very little. So it's really fats and proteins that dominate, along with water, obviously. Which, speaking of, need to make sure I'm doing enough of that. Good questions here. Let's see if I can smash that like button. I think only on. Can I even pull up the live chats in here and things? What's this? Oh, wow. I can do a green screen. That's so cool. How do I turn that off? I didn't even know we had a green screen on here. Would you look at that? I didn't even know YouTube had a green screen. That's cool. We'll have to use some of that. Okie dokie. Let's get into our next one here. Why do I get random heart palpitations when I'm not even anxious? So I used to have these. I used to think that I had an actual heart problem. I went to the specialist. Got EKGs done. I got heart studies done, and they're like, "Hey, man, everything's great. There's nothing wrong," which is a good thing to hear. But it's also like, okay, well then, why am I feeling this way? And I've told this story a couple times to where it was actually in graduate school that I started going to the Wellness Weight Club, and then eventually used some of my student loan money to get tested and go through this process, which what got me into the whole thing, and why I now work with this company, because it freaking works. But yeah, I was having there was a stress issue there that was more underlying because of the grad school and the lack of sleep and things like that, but also the foods that I was eating was creating a ton of histamine responses in my system. So not only inflaming the GI, but also lowering stomach acid there and starting to elevate the diaphragm through the stomach, creating basically an enlarged gastric bubble there. which pushed up on the diaphragm and started to change the angle of the heart a little bit, and now basically led to a frantic beating of the heart, and not very comfortable at all. It was only when I started to take in some apple cider vinegar, doing things like betaine HCl, that I got that to calm down. So it is a combination of the histamine responses, the lack of sleep, stress story that affects the stomach and the GI, and through that, you will run into issues like that. Another one I see is potassium being deficient. The RDAs for potassium are very high. They're 4,000 to 4,700 milligrams, depending on if you're a guy or a girl or how much you weigh. So potassium is way overlooked, and especially if you're an active individual too. So if you're working out every day, you're not you're not hitting enough potassium, I swear. And there's not really a good way to measure it with labs too, because 98% of it's inside the cell. So when you look at it on a lab, it's like you're looking at what's freely circulating. You're not looking at what is in each cell. And that's why it's better to go off the RDAs. But there can be more reasons than just having a stress issue take place. Good question, though. The heart palpitations, those are never fun. I feel for you. That was one of those. All right. It actually edited the video here. Beautiful. It took forever last week. Let me export this really quick as you guys come up with some more questions for us here. Yes, replace. That's going to take some time. But, oh man, what do we got? Wednesday? I cannot wait to get this lease signed, folks. That's when we start getting the whole process rolling here. I cannot wait. Have you guys ever heard of Tube Boost? Do you guys know what that is? I know. Sorry if you hear my computer going crazy. I don't know how much this mic picks up. I know you can hear some background noise with it. It's not like the best mic in the world, but she's good enough. All right. Can't hear the PC nice. The fans are just going crazy on the computer because I'm pushing this laptop like crazy. I hope it lasts because I use this computer like a madman, to the point where I think I got to get a new battery, because if it's not plugged in, the battery lasts like probably 30 minutes to an hour at this point, which is horrible, to be honest with you. She's cranking away. I think I got this, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I want to say. It's coming around that time, though. I feel like most computers don't last nowadays, anyways. So, all right, I'm almost done downloading there. Very good. So now I've actually been using Sora, which is used to be hooked up with ChatGPT, but I'm making all my YouTube thumbnails. Okay. We'll let that cook in the background too. Look at this, we're multitasking here. I know it's kind of boring, Midday lives are a hit or miss. Sometimes there's a bunch of people on here, but we're gonna be on here every day. Hopefully multiple times a day too. That way you can crank up the viewers. Trying to get this YouTube channel rolling. And TikTok is great for the reach, but oh my goodness, people in TikTok are freaking. Oh, I can only do it for so long. You gotta take some breaks, you know? It's like a constant battle over there. All right, that's taking some time. We got that rolling. We exported our video here. That is all good and ready to go. Nikki, what is up? We got the family returning. Nikki, how you doing? I'm just getting some YouTube thumbnails prepped up in the meantime. Thank you for all the likes, people. I think I can. Oh, that's what I was doing earlier. I was trying to find a way to spam the like button on here. Like, I don't know. Can you guys see the little hearts coming in there? You doing awesome? I'm doing pretty awesome here too. I'm just getting antsy because I'm waiting to sign that final lease and also waiting on this electrician to get back to me, which the guy has not called me back, and the architects as well have not reached back out. So that's annoying. Because we kind of need them to start getting the process rolling for upgrading the electricity for the office, because we're putting in an X-ray room there, which is going to be a nice $30,000 to $40,000 project. Well, that's fun. But aside from that, cool. It will be okay. Heck yeah. Whoa, earthquake. A little earthquake here. Sorry, I kicked the stand. Which is, I do that pretty often, honestly. Ooh-wee. I know. I don't think, though, that there is a way to smash or spam the like button like what I'm doing on here. Oh, cool. We can change the lighting and stuff. I look a little too bright with that, though. Anyways. But yes, beautiful stuff, folks. Beautiful stuff. Let's see if this works. Let me smash this thing like crazy, and we'll get this sucker rolling. Out of personal curiosity, what other symptoms are there that suggest developing insulin resistant? Also, starches are in a lot of people's foods. Yes, they are. Potatoes, bread. Should one not eat those? Everybody's going to be a little bit different. I think it should be more infrequent that you're getting those things in, and there are better choices. So, but let me kind of answer this in order. So, first part of that was, what other symptoms are there that suggest developing insulin resistant? So we talked about getting hangry. We talked about the moodiness that can come from that. Um, Seeing fat develop around the waist, that is another key sign of that too. Um, and that blood sugar dysregulation as well. So getting swings of hypo and hyperglycemia. Um, Having a 2 to 3 o'clock wall that you hit, that is a really common one too. So hitting, past lunch or 30 minutes to an hour after lunch, you're just dog tired. Pairing that with some brain fog in there, that's probably one of the more common ones that goes subtle, and even people think that that's kind of normal, which it's totally not normal to have that go on. But that's what I'm always talking about, getting earlier amounts of exercise in, getting higher amounts of protein in, because you can mitigate a lot of these things. Because when you're stimulating muscle, especially for people that are skinnier there, stimulating that muscle will gobble up a ton of the sugar and help your pancreas out a ton with, brunting some of the sugar load that does come in. And when it comes to the starches, like if you're doing something like potatoes, doing potatoes in colder forms. So cooking them, doing all the regular things that you would do with making potato type things, but then letting them cool down, you will have an effect by slowing the sugar availability there, which is pretty cool. And things like cold rice. But I think, potatoes and rice are kind of the safer zones to play in, but you shouldn't be doing those things every day. I like to see people get sugar sources from berries and honey. Those two are kind of cheat codes when it comes to this, especially if you're not, far into that diabetic range already or pre-diabetes. Um, Again, because berries have a ton of the fiber sources there too. So that being a key factor there. But should you never eat those? It's not that you can never have them. It's more that we should limit them because they can get out of hand and create some issues later on. So Sora completely flopped my thumbnail here. Both of these versions suck. Let's see if this works. Gotta remix the Sora thumbnail that it gave me. Also, I feel like I look kind of like a midget in here. Gotta lower this thing. Let's get you down. Get on a level playing field here. Oh, I guess I'm leaning back a little bit, so that's why. But yes, yes. What are you guys up to? Let me ask you guys some questions. What are you guys up to? And Kreber, you never let me know where you're from. Let me know where you're checking in from. Are you from the U.S.? I know I get some Canadians. I get some people from India. I get people from all over, honestly. But those have been the three most common. I would say the U.S., Canada, and kind of the Middle East. Germany. Holy crap. That's crazy. All the way from Germany, man. I love it. That's awesome. Your English is pretty good if you're typing things out like this, unless you're using a translate. Nikki, I'm working. Well, glad we can give you some entertainment while you're doing good work there. What do you do for work, Nikki? That's cool, though. You got people from all over. I think Nikki's in the US, so. But Germany, you might be the first German we've had. True German. There's people that are obviously of German descent, but being from Germany as a whole, I think it's cooler. But yeah, your English is pretty good. Assuming that you're not using a GPT to translate your stuff. But you can understand what I'm saying, so I don't think Google or YouTube translates things. Exec admin. Oh, Nikki, look at you in the higher ups there. I love it. I'm gonna try and spam the hearts here, see what we can do. Get some people to flood in here. But all right, let's see what it did this time. She's laughing. I swear, I wish I could show you guys the screen here because Sora thing that I'm using is just flopping in terms of YouTube thumbnails. Ugh. Yes. No, that is not the version that I wanted. I want this one. We got to remix this again. Third time doing this. Sorry. We'll get back to the questions here in a minute. So, as you guys think of some more, or people ask some more, I'm gonna use my brain here. Let's make this more realistic. Try that. It takes a few passes to do it, but the AI stuff is pretty cool. I get to automate a ton of things. Like I will take these lives, put it right into Opus Clips. That gets to clip up all the videos, um, and then I could throw in B rolls. I can make it look nice and pretty, and crank out content like a madman. Which is basically what I'm doing as we're waiting to get this office rolling. Because I know a ton of my time is going to be taken up here really soon. So, but hey, thanks for hanging out. Um, let's see. Let's get to another one of these. Oh, I'm moving things around. Kraber with another question in here. Let's see what he's got. When you were talking about the insulin resistance earlier on, you mentioned that exercise is good. Oh, yes. Um, as all the muscles can use up some sugar there. What kind of exercise is best for this? Getting lean muscle built. So, two things that will be the best for this. Number one, actually take a guess. What do you think number one is in terms of allowing your body to one, increase metabolism way more, and to gobble up a ton of sugar and building lean muscle mass? What do you guys think it is? What is the number one thing? You don't need any equipment for it. It costs $0. What do you think it is? Put it in the comments there. Let's get some good engagement here. Testing the knowledge of the folks. You can't use AI. I don't think AI would answer this question right anyways. It's only a language model. So it's not real AI. I'm gonna put a 10-second timer on you guys. Oh, running aerobic exercise. Very close. Very close. It's actually sprinting. Sprinting is, which is different from running, because running is going to put you in more of a muscle breakdown aspect of things. So you can actually run into some muscle wasting that can take place there when when you see marathon runners or you see people that do long distance running. They're not jacked people, right? They're very skinny, very light on the feet, which is still a good thing. But sprinting is by far the best thing that you could be doing. And number two being weightlifting and resistance exercise. So those are by far the two best ones. And if you're just doing body weight things, now you could add in uphill sprints, doing push-ups, doing things like pull-ups, doing things like air squats. And I like using a rebounder. I like using my box ballin', which is like a human cat toy. It's basically a strap that goes on your head with a little foam ball that you just use as like a little boxing tool. So I'll put weights in my hands and just do a ton of that, which helps a lot. Very cool thing to be doing. But yeah, it's kind of a secret trick there. Um, Sprinting and the resistance training, by far. I've got research on that. We're actually going to be going into that on the um, pulling up research articles on the Lectured Live. I'm going to try and do it Friday, just because I'm going to be going to an event Saturday. So if I can do that Friday and give you guys a ton of research backed things that we do every day, that'll be cool. Then we'll clip it up, and I'll be doing that in a horizontal live. So kind of like I'll be doing that on Rumble as well. Maybe we'll do Facebook as well, but we'll see. I kind of like my Rumble YouTube people. just a good, level-headed community. But aside from those two, I would say getting in sufficient amounts of proteins, because not enough people are eating enough protein in a day. And I'm talking about this on basically every single live. And that's why in the description here, I have the Equip Foods discount there for getting the Equip Foods protein brand. Because number one, best tasting form. Number two, it is a beef protein isolate. So it's not a concentrate. Um, that way you can get less of the dairy source that comes into play there too. So they're removing like 90% of that, which is why people don't bloat or do terribly when they're taking in those things, because most, you know, the GNC stores that carry protein powders, crap, synthetic crap, guys. So you want to be getting, and Equip Foods in terms of the price and the sourcing there, I cannot find a better one. And now you guys get a little discount on that too. So they actually have a 15% discount, which is, it beats a lot of the other brands and things that you're just giving out way more of a incentive there. Okay. Nikki says, that is me. What do you mean that is me? I forget what that was in response to. Okay, now I'm going to see if I can do this here. Let's go into this guy. Making YouTube thumbnails is fun and all, but kind of annoying after a while. I think. It can be. Definitely can be. Oh, not eating enough protein in a day? Well, do you drink coffee, Nikki? Because if you're drinking coffee, what I put in here, I do 2 cups of coffee a day. I get the Equip Foods coffee as well, because it's clean, no mycotoxins in there, no um, pesticides or herbicides. It's the best sourced that I could find so far, and the cheapest one. You do a cup. Well, I'll be doing at least 1 scoop in there, because now you're starting the day out, and you could even have your first cup, maybe save a little in the bottom there, and then do a second cup with just hot water or some cashew milk or some almond milk or some coconut milk, and then put your second scoop in there. And now you're up to 40 grams, which now you're going to keep stress hormones down. You're going to have that glucose regulation in there too, and you're going to be building on some lean muscle mass, even if you're just kind of hanging out at the computer all day. Um, how's the mushroom coffee? I don't do mushroom coffee, I do regular. So, like, let me just pull it up. Oh, I could probably set it as a green screen on here. Let me see if I can do that really quick. Because if I go into I don't think I can do that from here. Da, da, da. Let's see if I can go into settings. No. Edit video. No. About. I'm going to see if I can pull up a green screen in here somehow. Customization. That would be cool if I could do that. Settings, clips, copyrights. No. I think I would have had to kind of preload it before doing that, but dang it. Yeah, I would have to have it selected or screenshotted already, but let me actually let me see if I can get my sister. Hey Sophia, bring me the protein up here. Let's see if she can grab it for us. Um, how much protein should one take? Yeah, I completely forgot to answer, or I was gonna get into that. Actually, let me pull the coffee up for Nikki here. This is what I'm talking about. I just ordered 3 of these because you save an extra $5 there. This is basically it. The whole bean form of it. Right, yeah. I know it's backwards, but we do what we can. Sophia, bring me up the protein if you're still down there. The other guy, Ian. Actually, let me pull up. This too, because they have the colostrum. But I can pull up this guy. But yeah, like a third of people, even in the U.S., don't consume enough, and I think 70% of your body weight in grams of protein per day is kind of ideal if you're just looking to maintain. So that's a pretty high standard. If you're just looking to maintain, not put on muscle, not do anything fancy. So that's a pretty high standard to begin with there. So if you're eating, if you're 115 or 150 pounds, it should be somewhere like 115 grams a day. And that's to help you lose weight too, lose fat in particular. Nobody likes putting on fat. And your body's basically making up amino acids every day to keep you stored and everything. Let's go back to our live chats here. Come on. Channel. Okay. Now, so how much protein should one take? Is getting your protein from meat better than plants and dairy? Yes, because you're going to have, and you can do it as a vegetarian or vegan, but it's way harder. It is 50 times harder to get enough protein from plant sources in a day. Dairy is an okay source of it. I don't want people, over consuming regular dairy products and things like that. I want you doing more raw forms, and a step better is to do more fermented forms of dairy there. Um, but yeah, meat sources are best. Your wild caught salmon, your chicken sources, your beef, your venison, bison, boar, elk, venison. I think I said that already. Um, but you should be aiming for 70% of your body weight in grams of protein per day. As an example, some kind of animal meat, chicken, 100%, dairy, quark or cottage cheese, and plants, kidney beans. Is there a difference in between their proteins? You're just going to have a more complete structure of the essential amino acids from animal based proteins. Even, forms of dairy are going to be a little bit better for one, protein assimilation, so actually putting that protein to use and then having enough of an amino acid, wider based complex of amino acids in there. It's going to come from more of the animal based things. You can do it though from your plant based sources. So, like the best, let me get those up here just to pull up the best plant based sources. Because the info you can find online isn't always true. So, the best plant based are hemp hearts. Those are by far the best, most complete amino acid load of proteins that you can get from a plant based thing. It's going to be hemp seeds, then chia, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, like you said, um, kidney beans, and things like that. Also green peas, also pistachios, also Brussels sprouts. So quinoa's even in there, but heck yeah, man. Great question. There's a difference in those. Looks like we were lagging for a minute there, but Nikki with the blast emojis, dropping bombs. Look at that, 40 grams in. Mostly all your faves. Heck yeah, it's just a little bit harder, like to get the. You can do it though, like for the carnivore people that are like, oh, if you're vegan, you can't get all these things. It's just harder because you need to prepare those foods more than you need to prepare something like a beef patty that you can just slap on a pan and cook really easily. So it is harder to get that type of food prepped up enough. Um, just need to eat more daily, 100%. Nikki, are you mainly plant based, or am I not judging? Not judging. I'm just saying. Is that a curiosity? Oh, that is not the image that I wanted there. We all need to consume more, though. That is so true. Da-da-da. No regular food, so you're not doing like a specific thing in terms of types of sources there, which is totally cool. Sorry, I'm finalizing a thumbnail here. Let's go white color, and then let's get the emblem in here. This, make her all pretty. Centered. Hold on, I'm trying to finalize a thumbnail right now, but waiting for some more comments. Ugh, this stupid thing. The mouse is so touchy. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Still looks a little bit off to me, but okay, cool. Another earthquake. Hold on. Okay. Does skipping breakfast make a difference in energy? Yes, it does. I think people get caught up with time restricted eating, and I see where you're coming from, trying to gauge, like, okay, well, if I do some type of intermittent fasting, but your best protein assimilation is going to come in the morning, and really around 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. So between, I would say, 7 to 9 a.m. is the best time in a 24-hour period to get protein assimilation, which is your body taking all that protein, breaking it down, and then fully using that, or using that to its greatest capacity. That is going to be between that 7 and 9 a.m. mark. And that goes for pretty much all people there. The people that skip breakfast, you do run into some issues with some muscle wasting that takes place. So that's why I'm constantly talking about making a warm drink or something, even if you are going to work and doing things like that. I totally get it. I get so much work done in the morning, but I'm using having that coffee as a liquid that I can heat up enough, and then putting the protein in there like crazy. And I do that 2, sometimes even 3 times. Maybe a little bit of honey in there. I'll even put like raw cacao discs, so like chocolate discs, into the coffee there to melt it down as well, because you're going to get a ton of magnesium from that. Chocolate's one of the highest magnesium containing foods, also extremely high in antioxidants as well. So is coffee. So lovely stuff. But does it make a difference in energy? Yes, it does. You will impact energy kind of in a negative sense if you're waiting too long to get that first dose of protein in the morning. I heard some argue that it gets them a fight or flight response. Yep. Which helps them focus. Well, that can work against you in some ways too. Um, so I think your best setup to the morning is going to be waking up as early as you can, getting a some form of movement in, some type of workout in, and then getting a high dose of protein in right after. That is the best way to set yourself up. Though I also heard others say that it's worse. Yeah. And then Nikki, not vegan or those other things, more pescatarian. Okay. So doing a lot of the eggs and the fish, I believe. Or is that ovo vegetarian? What is the pescatarian by definition? Seafood is the only type of meat source. As well as eggs and dairy in there. So it's kind of like ovo. He says, no, I'm not either. So you are pescatarian or you're not pescatarian? I'm just regular. Nice. I eat all foods. But yeah, I think we should all rotate foods and not get so hung up on, just a couple that people just kind of stick to and overindulge in. Says no, all caps. Hey, I agree with you. I'm just saying. So let's get all those deleted and out of here. There we go. All right. So we got the thumbnail made. Got our next YouTube video that I'll drop after this. 4 of us hanging out in here, though. We've already done an hour. How has it been an hour, everybody? That is crazy. That is crazy. Look at this. The sun's finally coming out, too. Do you eat all food? Yes, I pretty much eat all food. All real food. As close to farm fresh as you can get it. That should be ideal. And all whole foods are great. I think people do run into food allergies a ton, like specifically IgG food allergies. Oh my goodness, it's the Goodwill. We're back. Hello, Doc. You said best time for protein intake is the morning, 7 a.m. I'll correct myself on that. It's actually 8 o'clock in the morning if we're splitting hairs, but that's by far the best one. Is it even if I am not asleep? How sleep disorder affects digestion? So I think what you're saying is, even if your sleep cycle is off, is that still the best time? Yeah. And when you have that sleep disturbance, there's going to be issues with GABA, there's going to be issues with the adrenal regulation there, and you will be having effects on insulin, even if your sleep cycle is just changed by a couple hours, because the best time to be going to bed is 9 p.m. for pretty much all human beings, because we're trained to be in a dineural rhythm. And for those that don't even realize it, we actually, our bodies are regulated with the sun and the moon and kind of the whole solar system that surrounds us, which is so cool that we're just on this gigantic rock. flying through space. That is ever expanding at 700,000 miles an hour. So, pretty wild. Puts you in perspective there a little bit, huh? Nikki goes to bed at 10 p.m. Nice. Nice. We should be in bed, 8 p.m. And this is what I did that whole part one and part two sleep on. I'm going to drop the full part one sleep episode, which it's already out there. It's in one of my lives. You'll see the thumbnail for it and everything. But the, nice, crisp, edited version of that will be up this Friday. So, is eating eggs for breakfast every day healthy? I read that the dietary cholesterol in it has no effect on the body's cholesterol. Is that true? I mean, about 20% of your cholesterol is going to come from dietary sources. But what is cholesterol? And is it really a bad thing? I look at cholesterol as being an inflammatory marker more than anything. And like babies drink breast milk, and that is mainly cholesterol. So why aren't babies dying of heart attacks, right? Because it's not cholesterol itself that's going to kill you. Cholesterol is responding to damage that's occurring in the body, whether that be to blood vessels, whether that be to your joints, or a menopausal woman with very low hormone production. So I see it more of an inflammatory marker than anything else. And I want to figure out the reasons for why it's high, um, and not just jump to, okay, this is high, you're going to die. Because there's vegans out there that do not consume any animal based fats, which is like the good thing that you should do, right? And they're on statin medications, and then they have strokes and heart attacks. And it's like, well, this person has been on this for 20 years. So I like, the research that's being done from um, people like Mark Hyman, people like Paul Thomas, and just great people that are pumping out research out there that pretty much lay out, what where these things actually come from. And it's more of the sugar battle than it is a battle with fat. And that honestly contributes, or is contributed from people that funded a ton of the research in the 80s, but centered around making fat the bad guy so that you can promote more sugar based products, because they were figuring out ways to make sugar cheaper and cheaper by making it processed and synthetic forms of it, to put in things like cereals and, drinks and snacks and all these things. So the fat got the blame for all the damage that the sugar's been doing the whole time, which is crazy to me. It's like the psyop is totally working. But yeah, the instance that people see cholesterol jump up a little bit, they're like, oh my goodness. And the ranges used to be different before statins came out, and now, you know, I can't tell you whether to take those things or not to take them, but I will say I want to figure out why the cholesterol's high in the first place. And that's how our whole life is a lie. I know. I know. This is like, this is the story of my life, man. And people think I'm crazy. But it's like, when people come to me with higher amounts of cholesterol and we work on all the inflammatory sources in their life, and that cholesterol comes down on its own, it's like, oh my goodness, you know? But there's some dietary influence there. And I would look up, just simply Google what cholesterol is, and actually search up either the 7 to 10 functions of cholesterol and see what it says. So, like, let me show you what I mean. Functions of cholesterol, because our bodies are not actively trying to harm us. I think that's where a lot of people get confused, and they start saying, okay, well, your body's making mistakes. It's like, no, it's not. Cholesterol is essential for various bodily functions, including building cell membranes, producing hormones, aiding digestion of fats, forming bile. It is necessary for overall health. Um, Plays several key essential roles. Like I said, backbone of cell membranes, building steroid hormones, aiding in digestion, vitamin D synthesis, transporting lipoproteins in the blood, or lipoproteins transporting cholesterol in the blood, so that you can have these things transport to and from these different organ systems and different tissues to get a bunch of healing done. So if your body's trying to heal like crazy, that means we have a problem occurring, and that means we need to fix that problem. So does suppressing that make your body fix that issue? No. It just manipulates a marker on a lab, which a lot of people will disagree with me on that. And hey, we can disagree. You don't have to, you know, hang me on a cross. You know, it's like people think I'm the Antichrist when we're getting into these things. So, okay. Also, is the amount of fat in them unhealthy? And does that affect cholesterol? 20% of that total number comes from the diet, but also your triglycerides influence that number too. So when people are having very high triglycerides, that is something to pay attention to, which again comes from a visceral fat issue, which again comes back to insulin and blood sugar that are at the source of that core issue. So it's much more nuanced than that. And I think getting the inflammatory particles checked is key. Um, Getting things like a calcium score done, that is a great thing to be doing too, because that will show you the overall plaquing that's taking place, and cholesterol is responding to that plaquing that is occurring. So he says, great. Our whole life is a lie. It's kind of crazy. The more you look into it, right? So that's what I'm here for, guys. Giving the value away, huh? Giving the value away. Yeah, yeah. Let me double check this thumbnail that I made just now. Doing some multitasking as we're waiting for comments and people. And thanks. Nice little pretty thumbnail. Maybe I will post another reel here before my project expires in Opus Clips. Bum, bum, bum. Here's the last video here about filtered water. All right, so let's get Rumble up here. Oop. Gotta wait for that to generate some captions and hashtags. Oh. Been using some beef tallow in the hair too. That's been working a bunch. Actually, let's do some of that. Look at this, we're going 70 minutes on. Surprised my phone battery's holding up pretty good here. Earthquakes. Keep doing a bunch of earthquakes with you guys. We got the, it's backwards. Psh. The Wellness Way whipped beef tallow. There's actually a tallow hair clay out there now that helps a little bit more, but it's all you need, folks. What, we got some laughing faces in there? Hey, we're showing you this is how I live my life, everybody. After this live, I'm about to go outside, train up on some labs, get a good workout in the sun before I meet up with some buddies later on today. Start typing out our lecture live this weekend, which is going to be probably a very long one and a very high energy, eventful one because I have so much cool info to go over with you. But yeah, tallow, probably the best thing you can do for your skin and things. You can laugh all you want, but this is really appreciate you. I appreciate you guys. Give me all the likes and the hearts. So we're gonna make this platform go crazy. And these lives will be a little bit slower from the beginning here, but as we keep coming on here and putting in the good work, we're gonna get them busy. Real busy here, folks. Boy. Is it worth getting fish oil supplements for the omega 3 and DHA. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about these nowadays. Yeah, I think when you get good grass fed and finished sourced meats, when you get good wild caught fish, things like sardines, those are where I would start. That's kind of number one, because if you can get things from the food and lifestyle practices first, that is where I want you getting them from. I don't want you jumping right to supplements. That is when you can't get enough through the diet or anything. Oh my god, what is the hair doing here, folks? You can get the hat back on. Looking crazy. Um, oh, it was something earlier. But yeah, and probably the best sourced one that you can do to get the most amount of things in is going to be a cod liver oil. That's going to be your best bet. So, reverse osmosis, it's thumbs up. Is key. Let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry if you're hearing the dogs barking. But yeah, I wish we here have many followers, but thanks to the YouTube algorithm, needs a bit of work from us. Well, it'll get there. When I was doing a ton of them consistently earlier on in the year, we were going like crazy. So yes. All right. I'm going to wrap things up here and get some more things posted, but I'm going to probably do another one of these later on. I just got to get a bunch of things done and we'll be chatting with you guys later. So, peace out, folks.